continue on. Just like we are going to continue on tonight, we're going to roll on to topic number 6, and that is Lewis Hamilton. Once again, we're going to talk about the king of F1. Lewis Hamilton, with that win at the Russian Grand Prix, wins 100 races, 100 Grand Prix, the first ever F1 driver to win 100 races in this long, illustrious history of F1.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch the race in Sochi and you hear over the comms how the team and everybody else is responding to Lewis Hamilton, first of all, they knew right away it's the 100th. They knew probably all week that this was going to be his 100th win if he was able to take the victory. You heard Lewis over the comms talk how much about, how much he understands that F1 really is a team sport. It's one driver in the car, but he's talking about how, everybody on the team contributes so much to all those wins, every single one of them, and how much help he's gotten from everybody involved over at Mercedes. You could tell right away that Lewis Hamilton knew, he wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about the entire Mercedes team and how much they appreciated, there was just such a mutual respect over the comms, which is not necessarily we're going to have these intimate moments, but it was pretty cool to watch during the broadcast of Hamilton speaking like that to the Mercedes team, which is really cool. The second thing, too, is you look at the top winners in F1 racing, and now there's Lewis Hamilton at 100, there's Michael Schumacher at 91, and then third place is Sebastian Vettel right at 53. So it's just like Hamilton, Schumacher, and then everybody else. You have Hamilton, Schumacher, then a couple of guys at 50. Prost is there at 51. It's down again, to 40s. Alonso's at 32. But who the hell is going to reach Hamilton? He's at 100, and there's nobody even active who's anywhere near that. I think the only guy that might even sniff it is Max Verstappen. But other than that, there's nobody else in F1 right now that could even get there, I think. So it's just one of those things where he's becoming like a Tom Brady, where it's just like, it's not that he's the greatest of all time. It's that he's the greatest of all time, and how much more is he going to raise the bar before he retires?
Yeah, no, he is undeniably the greatest of all time. And ESPN did a great thing. Shout out to ESPN. We're not going to hate on anybody here. They did a great video on him being the greatest of all time. And they compared him to Tom Brady and a couple of other greats from other sports as well, saying how hard it is to be called the greatest of all time and putting yourself in that conversation. But he definitely is the greatest of all time, the greatest F1 driver ever to step in the cockpit of a Formula One car. And he is just going to continue to stack the numbers. There's been some other Formula One drivers that are now analysts that are expecting him to win another 30 or 40 races before he retires. So imagine having 100 or 130 or 140 wins. And then the next guy's got 91, and then Sebastian Vettel's got 53, maybe 54, because I'm hoping Seb can, sneak out another one here with Aston Martin. But it's just really one of those things, like you said. I mean, the list drops off drastically after Michael Schumacher down to Sebastian Vettel at 53. And then let's just talk about win percentages. Lewis Hamilton has the highest win percentage of all time. That's at 35%, almost 36%. Of the time that he steps in the car, he gets a W. There's only 2 drivers that are higher than him in win percentage. That's Alberto Ascari. We all know who Ascari is, the Italian driver. He has a turn named after him at Monza. Okay, so that's Ascari. He's at 39%. And then Juan Manuel Fangio, who's another great F1 driver at all time, at 46%, I believe. So that's amazing. Lewis Hamilton being the third all time. And we're talking about, guys that Juan Manuel Fangio was dominant in his era, but he also had the most dominant car in that era as well. And he also drove for Mercedes. So it's just really one of those things showing the history of Mercedes-Benz in Formula One, them having the two of the greatest drivers of all time, arguably, and then having now all these wins as a team in the hybrid era, the 7 Constructors Championships as well. And honestly, they're leading in the Constructors right now, and that leads bigger than the Drivers' Championship right now. So it's arguable that, Mercedes could go on to win the constructors title, even if they don't win the drivers title. But I'm expecting them to win both, like I'm sure a lot of, F1 fans are. But we're talking about the greatest of all time. That's Lewis Hamilton getting 100 race wins. And I honestly think this is a feat that will not be topped by any driver coming up on the grid. I don't think you'll see it repeated, especially if he adds on another 30 or 40 wins. I don't think anybody will get to it. I think the guy you brought up, who I don't even want to say his name in this clip, but he might have a chance of getting to Michael Schumacher at 91. I think he has a better chance of getting to that stat than he does of chasing down Lewis Hamilton. But also, just quickly, you brought up how humble Lewis is, and he always brings up the factory and the team and the people at the factory. That other guy that we know is fighting for the wins this year never brings up the team, never brings up the people at the factory. I would argue somebody to bring up a clip where he does. So it just surely shows that it's a team game. Lewis Hamilton's a team player, but he's also the king of F1. He's the best driver ever. And he's got a lot more wins to come, but right now he's got 100.
Yeah, I think one of the last things you said there is the most important. We don't know when he's going to retire. He's racing for another 2 years, so at least. So, how many more wins is he going to tack on to this 100 and continue to extend this winning total for his entire career? And who the heck knows if it's ever going to be reached? It's unbelievable. So we'll see how many more he gets over the next couple of seasons. We're going to move on now to topic number